straight up, I friggin' love this thing.
I'm in.
Now you want it early.
Let me tell them.
I hope that all of you have enjoyed your dinner and fellowship tonight and all weekend. We now have the privilege of hearing from our director, Commander Matthew Shibler. We now have the privilege of hearing from our director, Commander Matthew Shibler. We now have the privilege.
Thanks, Commodore. Good evening, everybody. My name's Matt Shibler. I'm your DTRAIN out in St. Louis, if you haven't met me before or seen me, but I think most of you all have heard me talk already tonight, so I'll keep this nice and short. Some of you probably know that this is basically my last Coast Guard event to be at in a uniform, with the exception of my retirement ceremony in about 6 weeks. The rest of the time, thanks. So I'm retiring with what will be just over 20 years of service, and it made me think about what kind of reflect on the auxiliaries' impact in the places I've crossed roads with, or crossed paths with the auxiliary over my career. And I'll say it started back in the 1900s, right? Back in 1997, when an auxiliarist first came to me and my dad and said, hey, you think, I think your kid might be a good fit for the Coast Guard. Have you ever thought about the academy? And we were like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We looked into it, and I decided to apply. And then it was an auxiliarist that I went and saw at the office in Columbus, right up the road from where we lived, at the D8ER office up there, where I did my interview to apply for the academy. It was an auxiliarist who was administering that interview for me. And then I remember being at the academy about a year later and seeing what I know now is probably like the senior leadership course or something that our future Commodores go to when they're about to go when they go up to the academy for some training. I remember thinking, wait a second, those guys look familiar. And then I went to a ship, went to flight school, and then I was on flying C-130s. And you guys might not be aware of this, but when you're stationed around the coast on C-130s, but when you're doing C-130 work, you have to drop stuff out of the plane. And you have to know whether you're accurate or not. And as you can imagine, that is a fun job for auxiliaries to do. So they will sit in their boat, and I still remember the name of the boat, the main one that was in North Carolina that we did most of our training to, called the UTLT was the name of that boat. And we would fly circles around that boat and drop all of our rafts and all of our gear out, because you can't get it back. So the auxiliaries are there to be a good target, tell us how we did, so we can change it on the next one, and then to haul all that stuff back to the ramp so we can go pick it up and come back and do it later in the day or again tomorrow. And that's how we hone our skills, because otherwise you got no idea. You can't just drop to a random spot in the water and then know if you did any good or not. Why does that matter? When I look back at some of the accomplishments I had over my career, there was a boat when I was flying out of Clearwater. We got called. There was a boat that had been on the eastern side of the Antilles Islands. So that's like well east of like Cuba in the Caribbean. And they had tried to go, they had two engines. They were trying to go a few miles away to the next island over and get one of their two engines fixed. And it was probably a fuel problem because, as you can imagine, halfway there, the other engine crapped out. Now they were down to 0 engines. And that the way the wind goes down there, they started to blow west and into the middle of the Caribbean. And by the time they floated into our AOR, so by the time it took them about 6 days of floating before the drift models said, okay, now they're in U.S. Coast Guard territory. So they launched us to go look for these 4 dudes who had been missing for, at that point, 7 days in the sea in a 25-foot blue center console. And so yeah, we came up on those guys. They were kind of strewn about. We finally found them with the radar on the plane. They were kind of strewn about on their boat. One guy was just laying on the deck, didn't look like he was hardly moving, but they perked up as soon as we flew over and they saw the plane. And we did 2 drops to them and dropped basically a can full of water, which they had ingested before we even got turned all the way back around. And they called us, and there was a radio in that too, and they called us and they said, you got any more water? And we were like, oh man, okay, I guess. So we started shoving all of our box lunches and stuff in that can and dropped it to them. And I think about those guys, that was one of a few rescues I was on that were like that. But we were a few hundred miles offshore. We had 2 of those cans and 2 shots to get them what they needed, because there was one guy who'd been drinking salt water for 3 days at that point. They were eating seagulls, uncooked seagulls. It wasn't a great day for them, right? Or a great week. But then I think back to that, but that was just a product of the many days of training that we had all had as air crew out there, dropping stuff to the auxiliary boat. You know, we could not have done that without the auxiliary, and that's something that you guys don't have a lot of C-130s flying around here in the Midwest, so that's not something that you guys necessarily do, but I think you can probably relate. And then when I had the opportunity to come to this job, when this one popped open, I thought, well, what a fitting thing. You know, I can start my career with Coast Guard Auxiliary, and it'd be nice to kind of end it that way. So I appreciate it. My time in the Coast Guard has been a real blessing. It's been a wonderful thing to have a career that aligns with my personal and spiritual values, saving the lost people out there that need it, right? And I just want to say thank you for all that you do. It means a lot to me as far as like here and my family. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to our American public. The fact that you guys all do this for volunteer service, just to be able to put something back in your communities. What an amazing thing, and what a great organization to be a part of. And you know, I've said it before. I'm going to take a little break from the Coast Guard, and but I think it's probably likely that I'll be amongst you in some way in the fairly near future. And I was telling that to Laura, and she said, well, you know, all the directors say that. And I was like, yeah, but I got a little problem that may not be like most others. I have a 23-foot boat. I have a bass boat. I have a sailboat, 4 kayaks, a jet ski. So I have a little addiction to boating, and it just so happens you guys are a boating organization. So I think there's a good chance I'm going to be able to find some like-minded people, and I'm really looking forward to that probably. And anyway, so I just want to close. I'm going to keep this short. I know there's some more people to speak tonight, and we got a lot of words to give. Say thank you for all that you do, for all that you've done for me and my family, and for all that you do for the country. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Commander. Now we will be presenting awards to our top performers of 2022. I know he just sat down because we timed it that way on purpose. Would Commander Shibler, Chief Warrant Officer Cayley, Master Chief Park, Commodore Kirkwood, Commodore Fury, please join us in the front. Kelly, would you please come forward to read the awards?
going to be calling up the recipients that are here tonight. For those that are not present, division commanders, at the end of the program this evening, see Anita, and she'll have all the division awards for those recipients. We're going to start with Coast Guard support. Our third place winner is Jean Stegman from Flotilla 811. Thank you, Jean. And not with us this evening is second place, Anatoly Radenkoff. Our first place is going to go to, for Coast Guard support, Eddie Smith, 1602. Thank you, Eddie. Moving on to Air Operations Crew, the three individuals that have received this award are not with us today. Third place went to George Shaw from 402. Second place, Patricia Arnott, 811. And first place, Douglas Arnott from 811 as well. Next, we have our Air Operations Pilot. The two recipients of this one are not here as well. Second place went to Nicholas McManus, 401, and first place, Patricia Arnott from 0811. Next, we have Marine Safety. Third place from 0501, Douglas Field. And second place goes to Keith Ridgway from 2404. And our first place recipient is not with us this evening. That goes to John Phillips from 0501. And now for member training, third place goes to Michael Brzezinski from 1105. Our second place winner goes to Randy Ventress from 1105 as well. And our first place winner goes to Douglas Field from 0501. Moving on to public affairs. The third and second place are not with us this evening. Third place goes to John Ford from 0608, and second place goes to Raymond Numweiler from 0107, and our first place winner from 1105, Randy Ventris. Now for public education. The three recipients are not with us this evening. All from Flotilla 1102, Caleb Worthington in third place, Susan Worthington in second place, and Paul Fernandez in first place. Program Visitor Awards. The three recipients are not here this evening. Third place goes to Victor Rogers from 0707. And then a tie for first place, Deanne Rodenberg from 2405 and Michael Foster from 0110. Now for vessel exams, power boats. Third place, Cecil Stout from 1107. And our second place winner is not with us this evening. That's Brian Arrowwood, 2406. And in first place, we have Carl Mossbaugh from 0503. Continue with vessel exams for paddlecraft. Not with us is Jeff Getty from 0702 in third place. Second place, before he sits back down, is Carl Mossbaugh from 0503. I just waited till you got all the way back over there. I apologize. Okay. And first place for vessel exams paddlecraft, Anthony Waters from 0702. And our next two are going to be for surface operations. First is crew. All these recipients are not with us this evening. Third place from 1102, Gary Potterpin. Second place from 0410, Michael Craig. And first place from 1102, Dave Knapp. For surface operations coxswain, all three are not with us this evening as well. Third place from 0404, Clyde Miller. Second place from 2406, Joshua Kelly. And then first place from 1102, Clifton Ogden. And now we're going to move on to the Flotilla of the Year for our district. Our district is Flotilla 0608. Will that division commander please come forward? And Division of the Year goes to Division 6 as well. I thought about it. And now for District 8 Eastern Region, Auxiliarist of the Year happens to be one of my favorite human beings, Teresa Smith. And that is it. Commodore, back to you.
You can take your seats. Congratulations to all of the award winners. We will now hear from Commodore Patrick Fury, Deputy National Commodore, Atlantic West and Operations.
Thank you, Commodore. Good evening. You know, it's humbling. It's always humbling to get up in front of a group of auxiliaries to address you all. You know, especially in a banquet setting. And I didn't find out I was supposed to do this until about 7:45 this morning. Where are you, Kelly? But that's okay. You know, we'll do the best we can here. It is a humbling experience. You know, it's funny how things like this do this. And, you know, I know the other day you heard me talk about having family up in Middletown and me spending time with my 4 grandsons, the 4 boys of the apocalypse. And had a little humbling event from one of those young men Thursday morning. I came down here in ODUs, and I was down in the kitchen having a cup of coffee, and the 8-year-old comes bouncing down, and he looks at me, and he stops dead, and he goes, "Papa, you coming to Cub Scouts this afternoon?" True story. So, you know, kind of is a reality check, puts you back in place. So glad to be here. I want to spend a few minutes this evening talking to you about change and how important change is to the Coast Guard Auxiliary and to all of us. And you know, Commander Shibler is going to be going through some change here real soon. And I got to thinking while I was over at the table that, you know, you join the auxiliary, you could always volunteer back at the DIROC's office. I mean, you know everything, right? So, yeah. So anyway, I want to talk about change for just a few minutes. And, you know, change is really the only thing that's constant in this life. Really, you know, I mean, you know, everything changes. Everything's moving and constantly change. And you know, we've all changed some way over the years. And, you know, looking around the room tonight, there's a few of us here that have gray hair, and so we're seasoned citizen. And I bet that when most of us learned to drive, the car might not have had air conditioning in it, but we changed, didn't we? Now we wouldn't think twice about a car that didn't have air conditioning in it. Some of us learned how to drive on that crazy standard transmission. So, you know, things change. Color TVs, we had black and white TVs. We all got cell phones now, things. So we've changed. And the auxiliaries changed over the years. And if there's anybody here tonight, and I'm sure there's several of us that have been in here 15 to 20 plus years, maybe longer. You know, Commodore Whitacre's been in what, since 1986? He's probably been in longer than any of us. And, you know, he said he knew Alexander Hamilton on a first name basis. But things have changed. And you think back to, I think back to when I joined, you know, I had to take a new member course. 2 nights, you know, 2 Tuesday nights. Go to the flotilla building, you know, course with a class, and then a 3rd night for a test. Today, what do? BQ2. We do it in the comfort of our home on our time. So things change. You know, back when I joined, we didn't have to go through background checks. We have to do that now. Why? Because we want to make sure that our members are are good, reputable people, you know. Missions today require us to have a higher level of professionalism. You know, that's why we have to go through some of the certifications that we have to go to. And as the Coast Guard's position changes, and we talked about this earlier this week several times, you know, as they are experiencing their recruiting challenges, they're looking to us. You know, a lot of, if anybody knows Captain Al Moore, the Chief of Prevention down District 8, you know, somebody comes to him with a need, and one of the first things out of his mouth now is, gee, can we get the auxiliary to do that? 15, 20 years ago, you'd never heard that. So things are changing for us, and we really need, we need to embrace that. And, you know, is the auxiliary resistive to change? Yeah. We all know people that are resistive to change, and I know I mentioned in the Meet the Brass gathering today that I call some of these stubborn old people barnacles. And I know Master Chief kind of got a chuckle out of that, but they are, you know. We have to be changed. You know, why are we resistive to change? Well, it's kind of natural, you know. We're resistive to change because maybe we don't know why that policy's changing. We don't know why we're being asked to do something that we didn't have to do before. And the reason is always there. There's always an explanation when we come out with a change of some kind, but we got leaders that maybe don't read their email or they just don't want to pass it down. But you know, as volunteers and as member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, we've got a right to know why, and we should ask why. Why is this change coming down? So that we can talk to other people about it and be informed. You know, some people say knowledge is power. I say it's empowerment, and we have to empower our members. And one of the ways to do that is to let them know what's going on, so they have the right story when they're talking to the other people. You know, we resist change because we're intimidated. We're afraid, well, you know, I don't know if I can do that. Oxdata 2 was probably one of the most intimidating changes we've made in the last 2 years. Everybody was comfortable with the old way, but you know, is there anybody here, I know Commodore Whitacre was around when we had OxMIS. What happened when we went from OxMIS to Oxdata? Yeah, man, you thought the world was going to come to an end. Same thing happened when we went from PALMS to AOM. Oh my goodness gracious, this will never work. Here we are again. And it worked, didn't it? And it's coming around. We're coming around with this change. But we have to embrace this change. You know, we're doing things that we've never done before. And you know, we're resistive to it because you know, you hear people say things, we've never done that before. I hate that. I hate it. When somebody says to me, we never did that before. Well, guess what? We're going to do it now. Or we tried that once and it didn't work. When'd you try it? Oh, about 8 or 9 years ago. Well, you know, maybe it was the wrong time to try something, or maybe it was the person that was in charge of whatever we were trying to do. And then you hear all the time, I didn't know that. When that policy changed? Oh, about 3 or 4 years ago. You know, well, I didn't know that. Nobody told me. You know, well, there was an all-ox about it. You know, didn't you see that? No, you know, I don't read my email. So then, you know, then we come into these two urban legends, and these are probably the two most famous auxiliarists in the whole Coast Guard Auxiliary. And I know you heard of them. That auxiliarist that's named They Said. Or how about the one that's got 3 names? We were told that. We were told. I've been looking for those two jokers for 16 years because I'd sure like to sit down with them and have a good, frank talk. But, you know, all the time, you know, we were told that. They said. So, you know, what happens if we don't change? What happens if we resist the change? Well, you know, we start to shrink. You know, flotillas that resist change shrink. They implode and they disestablish and they just fade away. And we've lost a lot of talent. We've lost the ability to support the Coast Guard. You know, they lose their organizational mass. And we see it a lot. We see it a lot today. You know, Commander can probably tell you that over in the 9th District, they've initiated a flotilla health program. Flotillas have to hit certain metrics or they get put on probation right now. And they've kind of reduced and consolidated some flotillas. I think they've even eliminated a division. So, you know, these are things, these are realities, these are things that we're facing today only because people didn't want to change. You know, we need to be informed to change. So, you know, let's go back to our flotillas like I asked everybody to do Friday morning. Let's do a good, honest review and evaluation of how we can improve ourselves and be open to that change. You know, and I ask you all, please, you know, when these changes come about, or when your flotilla sits down and maybe you do that evaluation, somebody says, hey, you know, let's try this, and everybody goes, you out of your mind, and we all laugh, but you peel the onion down enough and the laughter stops, you know, we come up with some good ideas. So keep an open mind, please. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind to some of the new methods. Keep an open mind to some of the changes that have come along. You know, the currency maintenance issue. I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought there was going to be a tremendous amount of pushback on that, but there hasn't been, which is a testimony to Master Chief, because he takes a real common sense approach to our challenges. And I thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Because, you know, as we all know, common sense isn't a common thing. So be open to the change. Be open to the thinking of new members. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. You only been here for 6 months. Well, you know, don't beat them down. They're bringing a different point of view to the table. And we need to embrace that. We need to listen to them. You know, why is it in risk management we ask? Listen, ask the new members to speak first. You know, we want their unfiltered input. We want the review. So, you know, let's take a look at what we're doing. Let's make sure we're up to date. Let's make sure that we are on top of things. You know, we're going out and recruiting new members, and you know, I would like to see us start a brand for the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and I would like that brand to be Join the Adventure. But we got to make sure that we have an adventure to sell, and we do have an adventure to sell. You know, we've got what we do in the water, we got what we do in the air, but now we got all this new stuff going on, cyber and culinary assistance and chaplain program. And these are things that we never had to offer before. And if you're a barnacle and you're resistive to that change and you're talking to somebody about joining, you don't know anything about it, so you don't bring those things up. So think outside the box, but stay within policy. You know, you heard me before, imagine, innovate, and improve. So please be open to the change, accept it, promote it, embrace it. You know, let's leave here this weekend with an idea that we're going to make things better in 2023. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Be safe and have a safe trip home when you get out of here tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Commodore Fury. Now we will recognize our newly graduated Flotilla Leadership Course attendees. Would instructors Michael Rozicki and Mark Holtzkaw please come forward? Kelly, please come up to read the certificates.
What if you come on this side? All right, first up, we have John Bob Fears from 0107. Right, and just so you know, they're going to be getting their certificate. What Mark is handing out, there's 2 cards. One is the membership swear-in that they would use for their new flotillas, when they start leading them, and their staff officer swear-ins. And those are on those little cards, so they have them with them at all times. All right, up next, Franklin Vaughn from 0401. Thanks, Lynn. All right. Next up, Spencer Gertis from 0501. Next up, Paul Morrow, 0505. Joe Wildman, 0602. Stephen Early, 0603. Noah Farborough, 0702. Benjamin Hughes, 1102. Ronnie Young, 2402. And Joel Urban, 2404. Awesome. Let's give another round of applause to those students and instructors.
Thank you, Kelly, and congratulations to all the FLC graduates, sorry, wrong word. Thank you to our past Division Commanders Association for providing the written materials for the class. And we will now hear from our Vice National Commodore, Murray Kirkwood.
Well, thank you. Many of you have heard me speak at least once over the last couple of days, but I do want to touch on a few additional things. First off, I've had an incredible time this weekend. Thank you so much for your invite. It's nice to get this part of the country. I haven't been to Cincinnati before, I don't think, at least not in many years, but certainly not in auxiliary capacity. So it's been awesome. I attended some of your training today and your board meeting yesterday, your fun night. Everything was a lot of fun, and I appreciate the welcome that I felt and that you gave me, so thank you very much. This is an incredible time to be an auxiliarist. You probably already know that, but I just want to highlight again what an incredible time it is to be an auxiliarist. Yes, I talked about a lot of new missions going on, a lot of new activities that are happening that are available to us that even 5 years ago we couldn't have thought this stuff up. But it's continuing to be, the need for our assistance is growing and getting greater and greater. We have unprecedented requests for Coast Guard mission support. For example, Southwest Border, I would never in my wildest dreams be able to make that up, that we'd be asked to assist with. Cybersecurity is another one. We have members serving on cutters all over the world in public affairs, international interpreters, and also public affairs, our aux chefs, so just incredible thing. And then chaplains, food service, public affairs. We have such incredible programs that are on these cutters. And they represent us very well. They are very happy to have us there and our support of the missions. Last night, Admiral Toomey provided some staggering numbers for District 8 Eastern in terms of the number of hours contributed over the past year. Not just in the opportunities away from home, because many of you did attend areas overseas on cutters or Southwest Border. Sorry, my voice is going. But also at home, the hours you spent at home doing vessel safety checks, public education, program visits, surface ops, air ops, etc., has been just incredible. Without the support of this district, I'm not sure what the Coast Guard here would do. It really is obvious, and it was obvious from Admiral Toomey last night and the commander how important it is that the auxiliary is here and as active as they are. You know, saving an unknown number of lives among our boating community. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your incredible hours of dedication and support and hard work in terms of getting qualifications so that you can be additional support to the Coast Guard and help to saving our public on the water. Last night, streamers were given out for 50 years, 60 years, and I think 80 years. And just remember that the auxiliary was founded in 1939, so 84 years ago. And we already, in this district, had people who had hit the 80-year mark. So that's just incredible. So please, I'd like everybody to stand and give yourselves an applause. And then if I could have the auxiliarists who've been in at least 5 years, please remain standing. Thank you. If you've been in 10 years, please remain standing. 15 years. 20 years. 25 years. Anybody at 30? Okay, 35, 40? We have anybody at 50? So how many years, sir, for the two of you? I'm sorry? 42. All right. I want to thank you for your service and provide you with one of my coins. Oh, only 35. You could all aspire. In my district, we've had people at 50 years, which is just incredible. You know, they started when they were 3 or 4 years old. And I know we have some relatively new members. So has there anybody been here less than 2 years in the auxiliary? Thank you. Anybody less than 1 year? Anybody less than 1 year, brand new member? A couple of you. So thank you so much. I know some of you were in the flotilla leadership course. This district expects great things from you. And so continue your leadership journey, and you have many, many mentors here that can help you as you continue going through. So thank you. In the Commandant's recent State of the Coast Guard address, Admiral Fagan told us that today we uphold the tradition, and the Coast Guard's future is bright. And I'm here to tell you we are Team Coast Guard, and our future is very bright. The Commandant underscores the importance of the auxiliary and the contributions we make every day to support the missions of the Coast Guard. To that end, she is sponsoring an incentive program for active duty units to integrate the auxiliary into their work. It's called the Auxiliary Integration Award. I was lucky enough to be on the selection panel for that. There are 3 categories, and each category had 5 nominations, and they were incredible. We think that each district is basically doing the same types of support and integration at the unit level, but it's just amazing what some units, what auxiliaries are doing in some units. So I don't think it has been announced yet, the winners, but you'll be looking for that soon. Oh, good. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm sorry? Yeah. But it was great. It was hard to choose because there were such great such great nominations. And there's also a DTRAIN award, which was great as well. We had 1 nomination for that. So I think the Auxiliary Integration Award is intended basically to keep us busy, right? It's challenging each unit, each local unit, to come up with new and additional ways to use and integrate the auxiliary into the work they do every day. And I just can imagine that's going to include increase what we're doing and the asks that we get for different things. Districts 11 North and South out in California, Utah, Nevada, that area on the Pacific, and Districts 5 North and South up in Delaware in that area. They have programs called Request for Forces. This is in 11 North and South. And this was started by our 11 commander probably about 3 years ago now. And what it is, it's basically a help wanted, and that's what they call it in 5 North and South. So they have a mechanism for active duty to submit to say, hey, we could use somebody to do filing on Wednesday mornings in our unit. There's got to be somebody that's going to be interested in doing filing Wednesday morning in that unit. There's all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be sitting on a cutter for 3 months, doing interpreting, but there's all kinds of events and activities that they need support with, especially as their billets get emptied by retirements, by people moving, and there's not enough to backfill and fill those billets again. So we are actually working on a group nationally now that's going to roll this up, this request for forces or help wanted, so that each district ends up having this with their active duty partners. And then we are actually looking at a way that we could have districts support each other. So, for example, about a month ago, down in Florida, in D7, there was an outbreak, I guess amongst some of the culinary people in one of the units where they came down with mononucleosis or something. So they couldn't cook for a period of days, and they were looking for somebody, and there was nobody in D7 that could provide support at that point. So. There was somebody coming off a cutter up in, I think, D5 or thereabouts, and he said, hey, I'll go. He turned around and went down. So we need to have that inter-district as well. So many of our districts are so close together, sometimes just over a border or just a few miles away, that if there's nobody in my district that can help, perhaps there's somebody in the next district that can help and fill those needs. And again, the time is never more important than it is now for us to be supporting those missions, especially as they have a drop in their ranks. So Admiral Timmy talked yesterday. He gave this staggering, I think it was 2,700 vacant positions. So their future is not bright in the near distance in terms of filling those positions. You heard him talk about the buses being half full on the way to Cape May and trying to get enough people that want to join the Coast Guard. Part of the challenge, you probably have heard this, is the group of people that they typically expect to go to Cape May are young ones, are 17 to 21-year-olds or whatever. And the majority of those kids just don't qualify for military life. Whether it's their weight, their emotional status, their whatever, they don't qualify. And so there's only about 30% of these kids that qualify of that age group. And you have to think that every military organization is trying to get those same kids. So you can see it's not real bright for the near future. We've got to make some changes to get that change, hit that change. So I think we'll see. I think that we'll see the request for auxiliary to backfill those positions more and more as we get qualifications, as we have the personnel who are capable and able to backfill a position that may be vacant for 6 months even, or a year, that we backfill and fill those positions. So it really is an incredible time to be an auxiliarist. I do believe, and you've probably heard me say this, there is something for everyone in the auxiliary. There is something for everybody in the auxiliary. So many new missions now. So as we have people emerging out of COVID and the pandemic and not being able to do things, and they say, I'm just tired doing vessel exams. So many other things they can do. So as leaders, it's our responsibility to get those people back involved. Find something that's gonna stir their pot and they're gonna be happy doing. So as I said, there's lots of different things. So our challenge, though, is to be able to respond to those missions as the new ones come up. We have no crystal ball to know what we're going to be asked to do in the next year, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years. And so it's really imperative that we stay ready and prepared with what we know, that we keep our training up, that as we hear of things at a local level, that somebody's leaving and they're not sure when they're going to be back, they may not be able to fill that for 6 months, then say, hey, what kind of training? Is there something I can do to help? That's where our auxiliary unit coordinators at each of our sectors and stations are so important, because they have that very good relationship with the XO and the staff there to say, is there something that the auxiliary can step in and do? And sometimes it may just be a little bit of training. So we'll get the training, we'll be qualified for the next. That's happened a lot in some of our districts around emergency management, especially in hurricane areas and tornado areas where that's kind of a known constant challenge, right? That so many of our auxiliaries have been trained to step into different emergency management positions. And that's the thing we need to do in all areas, is what do we think might be in the future that we can start getting trained for now. If we aren't ready, we're going to get left in the dust. We've got to be ready to move. We need to grow our membership to be ready to support these new missions and help backfill. And so we were talking earlier about attracting younger members, and I mean younger in terms of age-wise, not necessarily newer, but younger. But are we really ready for them? We had a conversation at the Meet the Brass earlier that we need to be able to train them differently. They may not train, they don't train the same way as we train, so we have to have different venues for them to get the certifications and train. So we need to be more open for the different populations that are coming in need. Not every auxiliarist coming into our organization, not every member fits the bill for the same box that everyone else does, right? We're all unique, we all have unique needs, and we've got to be more flexible so that we can train our younger folks coming in at the methods that they expect and that they are used to and that they will support. We also need to retrain our members, and that's a big part of it. We have a lot of people, we did lose members nationwide during COVID for a variety of reasons. I don't know if you lost anybody physically to COVID, but in my district we lost about 10 members to COVID. One was my finance officer when I was Commodore, so it really hit home. Some of these, I knew every one of the members, so we lost members. We lost members because they were bored and said, well, I'm not going to hang around and wait until they want us again, right? So we lost members that way, and then we lost members that didn't want to get vaccinated or wear the masks and were challenged with some of those things. So we did lose people. So if we're going to, I said this earlier as well, most disenrollments have less than 2 years in the auxiliary, and so we've got to approach those people and say, why did you get in the auxiliary? What is it you want to be doing? Because we've got plenty of people that can help you get there in terms of whatever you're wanting. So if we're going to grow our membership and retain our members, we have to look at inclusion. I again said this earlier. It's one of our national Commodore watchwords. That's how important this is. Every decision that we are making is based on the inclusion of our members, including members, and making sure every member is taken care of and is being supportive. We will not excel as an organization unless we are an inclusive organization. And I know people don't want to talk about it, but in some areas, in some districts and some flotillas, there still is this good old boys mentality, and we have to get rid of that. We have to get rid of that and come up into this century where we are being inclusive of everybody and welcoming people into our flotillas. How many times have you had a new member in your flotilla that sits in the corner and nobody ever talks to him the whole time? Right? That we can't do that. We have to have, that could be the one person who's going to have the skill set we need for this mission. We have to be inclusive and get these people in. Gerlinde yesterday talked, where's Gerlinde? There you are. Gerlinde yesterday gave a nice overview of kind of the diversity and where we're going with diversity, and so I appreciate that. And as she said, it's not about quotas. I think many of us, when we think about diversity from perhaps the 70s and early 80s, we have bad taste in our mouth because it was about quotas, and it felt anti, what's the word? Discriminatory in a different sense, and that's what we don't want. That's not what this is about. It's just making sure that every opportunity is available to everyone. So it's the quality of each member, that each member feels valued and that they count. Our previous Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard, Jason Vanderhaven, he retired, I think, June or so of last year. He said, our own behaviors have a direct impact on our members and how well they execute the mission. When our workforce feels that they are part of an inclusive environment and valued, they are mission-ready member committed to our organization's goals and an integral member of the team. And so it comes full circle, right? And now it's come full circle. If we don't have an inclusive organization, our members won't be ready for the missions that we're asking them to take care of. We can't be left in the dust, and our relevance will fade. And relevance is huge right now, and that's what several members thought we were going to lose during the pandemic, is our relevance to the Coast Guard, and that's nowhere near true. Our relevance has never been more important and never been bigger than it is now. So we need to encourage, we can't let that happen. Commodore Gus Formato, our National Commodore, is standing up a new group called the NACO's Inclusion Advisory Group. That's how important this is for our organization, an inclusion advisory group. It's just in the development phase. We will be extending it to more members as we go. But right now we have two really tentative but kind of key outcome goals of this group. First is to ensure that every member feels valued and to encourage to aspire to become elected officers. If we can achieve that, for every member feels like they have the chance to become a leader and every member feels valued, we are way far ahead of where we are now. And that's what we need to get our organization into the future. I want to end with a couple of things. You need to remember your why. And I've given this before to people. People need to remember their why they joined the auxiliary, especially in times when things are not going as well as we expected, like during COVID, when we couldn't go out and do the things that we wanted to do that we joined for. So for my why, I joined right after 9/11. You know, in the aftermath of 9/11, there was incredible patriotism, nothing like I've ever seen before in this country, and I got swept up in it, and I wanted to do something for my country and give back. And the auxiliary is what I found. I wanted to give back. It's one of the best decisions of my life. I enjoy every single day that I'm an auxiliarist. I'm proud to put on the uniform. I am proud to work for the Coast Guard, proud to complete the missions that I'm capable of completing. And I'm hoping that every single one of you are feeling the same way. So I encourage you to remember your why. Get back to that passion about why you joined the auxiliary, because that's going to stir you to become even better members and to get one more certification, get ready for one more mission, and that. So in closing, I want to just reiterate, our time is now. The future is bright, and it's there for us. It's there for our taking, and we have to be ready as we go. We need to be ready, flexible, and inclusive, and again, remember why. So thank you for your service, and Semper Paratus.
Thank you, Commodore Kirkwood. Okay, now we have some national awards to be presented. Commander Shibler, if you would please come forward to present these awards. Commodore Kirkwood, Commodore Fury, OTO, and Master Chief Park, would you please come forward for the presentation of these awards?
Sorry, I just gotta move some things around up here to get organized.
That's my OTO, always moving things around.
Yep. Okay, so Department of Homeland Security, United States Coast Guard, Flotilla Meritorious Achievement Award for 2022 to Flotilla 2404. So can members of 2404 come up? Flotilla 2404, District 8, Eastern Region, is presented with this Flotilla Meritorious Achievement Award for sustained superior performance and most significant contribution to the auxiliary program during 2022. Through operational, logistical, and administrative vigilance, your flotilla and its dedicated professionals have been recognized as the most outstanding flotilla in the region and have set the standard for all flotillas. The dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty of the members of this flotilla are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard and the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. Signed, Matt Schiller, Commander, United States Coast Guard. Members of the flotilla are, oh, is that a different one? Oh, belay my last. What's that one for? This? Oh. Oh, okay.
That's a big award.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Congrats. Good job. Okay, next award. The Commandant of the United States. I'll read it after I. Yep. All right. Can the following people come up if they are present? Kelly Crecilius, Lynn Miles, Richard Miles, Stephen Yancey, Emily Yancey, Patrick Brown, Coleman Wilkinson, Duncan Wilkinson, Lois Wilkinson, Anita Daniel, Stephen Daniel, Keith Blosser, Buford Ridgway, Randy Ventress, Eddie Smith, Teresa Smith, and Diane Gilman. The Commandant of the United States Coast Guard takes pleasure in presenting the Coast Guard Meritorious Team Commendation to the 8th Eastern Region District Training Production Team for service as set forth in the following citation. For exceptionally meritorious service from January 2021 to December 2022 in support of the major training events for the 8th Coast Guard District's Eastern Auxiliary Region, the team worked tirelessly to plan and execute 4 multi-day district training events to ensure Eastern Region auxiliarists had access to quality educational opportunities that enhanced their knowledge and proficiency in a broad range of Coast Guard missions. These foundational training events provided in-person training to a cumulative 372 members over 2 years. The team judiciously invested over $32,000 in member training and liaised extensively with local businesses, political leaders, food vendors, and hotels to plan and execute the complex events that took place in Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Knoxville. During the worldwide novel coronavirus pandemic, the team tripled their planning efforts to create numerous viable contingencies that balance member health and safety with critical training needs despite rapid changes in local infection rates and pandemic safety protocols. To minimize the impact of pandemic restrictions and broaden the availability of training across the 10-state region, the team set the standard for utilizing state-of-the-art audiovisual equipment to broadcast meetings and training sessions online. The team acquired a trailer to transport the complex production equipment to multiple sites and further provided production services to national-level auxiliary events. The district training modules broadcasted online greatly expanded the audience and accumulated over 4,000 views by members who were unable to attend in-person sessions. The dedication, pride, and professionalism displayed by the 8th Eastern Region District Training Production Team reflect credit on each team member, their team, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and the United States Coast Guard. For the Commandant, signed A.H. Moore, Captain A.H. Moore, United States Coast Guard. Okay, next award. Auxiliarist Mr. Eddie J. Puckett, please come forward. He's not here. Do we still want to, you want to read it? Okay. Oh, okay. Citation, this was a citation to accompany the award of the Auxiliary Achievement Medal to Auxiliarist Eddie J. Puckett. Auxiliarist Puckett is cited for outstanding achievement while serving on the Incident Management Auxiliary Coordination Cell, IMAC Operations Team from July 2022 to November 2022. Ready? There's nothing up here except for the book. It's all right. We'll get it. Nobody's going anywhere. The important thing is we're all together. Right? Especially you. Front and center. You got it? Okay. Commodore Matthew L. Meyer, front and center, please. Attention to award. Can everyone please stand up if you're able? Citation to accompany the award of the Auxiliary Meritorious Service Medal to Commodore Matthew L. Meyer, United States Coast Guard Auxiliary. Commodore Meyer is cited for meritorious service in the performance of the duty as a District Commodore for the 8th District Eastern Region Auxiliary Region from January 2021 to December 2022. An exceptional leader, he masterfully guided the region's 890 auxiliary members through arguably the most challenging and transformational 2-year period in recent history. Commodore Meyer optimally balanced the risk posed by the COVID-19 pandemic against the auxiliary's essential contributions to the nation and leveraged emergent technologies to ensure continuity of these functions. Despite the many constraints of the pandemic, the Eastern Region provided 190,000 volunteer hours and supported the District 8th prevention missions by executing more than 7,000 vessel exams, more than 4,000 marine dealer visits, more than 1,000 hours of public education classes, and more than 9,000 hours of public affairs engagements. Commodore Meyer also oversaw 6 Eastern Region auxiliaries who contributed to the Department of Homeland Security's Border Security mission with an impressive 59 cumulative days deployed to the southwest border of the United States. Additionally, he coordinated the acquisition of an enclosed trailer to transport the state-of-the-art audiovisual equipment package for the Eastern Region's elite D-TRAIN production team to live stream and record regional and national auxiliary events beyond the borders of the Eastern Region. Commodore Meyer's dedication and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary.
Thank you, Commander, and congrats to the award recipients. I want to also thank the instructors and students who attended classes this weekend. Another thank you goes to Stephen Yancey and Commodore Chris Harshfield, who both really stepped in this weekend in the absence of Patrick Brown, our normal audiovisual expert. So congratulations, thank you. Just so you folks know, it says right here I'm supposed to insert comments. I remember back when manual transmissions were the thing. Matter of fact, I can tell you about horse-drawn buggies too. Okay, I'm not quite that old. That's it. That's all the additional I'm going to go because I know my limitations. Our spring D-Train has offered us all valuable training, very informative meetings, and the opportunity to share ideas and experiences. We have met many new auxiliaries and renewed old friendships across our district. Now, as we prepare to return to our home ports, we must remember our challenge that we take what we have learned, our experiences, and our enthusiasm back to our deck plate. Thank you all for coming here this weekend, and safe travels on your trip home. Good night.